Good afternoon, everyone. As much as I don't feel like being on camera today, I figured I haven't actually turned my camera on in a while. Um, so, yeah, insomnia is kicking my butt. Allergies are kicking my butt. But it is what it is. So I figured I'd finish up because last week I just kind of did a stream on, or pre-record, the DSM-5 criteria for anxiety and panic attacks. That's the diagnostic criteria that a professional looks at to diagnose somebody with those conditions. I never really thought of myself as having anxiety per se, like in the form that people often think of, that debilitating type of anxiety. And like I said on the pre-record, we all experience anxiety of some sort. I think it's a natural state of being. Things make us anxious, things the unknown. And while I don't think of myself as an anxious person, I can definitely identify that I'm easy to get there, if that makes sense. Like I don't live my daily life, 24/7 in a state of just absolute anxiety, but it doesn't take a lot for it to override all of that and get up in my head and really cycle around to the point where I do struggle with taking myself out of that anxiety and moving forward. For example, several jobs ago, I was on the job and my supervisor popped in and said, and it was early in the morning. It was like, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning or something. Oh, the evening where you're at, Kelly? It's 3:15 in the afternoon where I'm at. Early in the morning, first visit of the day. It was back when I was doing supervised visitation for my state. And early in the morning, she popped in and she said, "Hey, after your last visit tonight, I need you to come to the office. There's something we need to talk about." And then she left. And I'm like, what the hell? What? And that was all it took. And I don't know how much of that is ADHD. I don't know how much of it is, anxiety, how much of it's any other whatever. I guess it is evening where you're at too, Sophie. I didn't think about that. But I literally spent the entire day out of focus. Like I couldn't think about anything else. Like what, and it spiraled into, what do they need to talk about me? And it wasn't, and it shifted rapidly from what do they need to talk to me about to what did I do to warrant this meeting, and then I'm replaying the last, week of work, all the visits that I did I say something wrong? Did I, and it just totally consumed my entire day. To the point that I was, what I now realize, was starting to have a panic attack. I didn't realize it back then, but, my heart was beating like crazy. I was nauseous. My head was throbbing. I had such a bad headache. And I didn't realize at the time, like I said, I was actually having, like mini panic attacks because of the anxiety that I was feeling. And in the end, it turned out to be, there was an accusation made by a client, but he was unable to name the supervisor by name, but he was able to give a generalized description. And there were three of us that met that general description. So all three of us were called in individually to address the complaint. And I was able to, like, within minutes, prove that I was not who he was thinking of. Yeah, anxiety and physically exhausting. I agree. Um, but I think really, and my whole life I've kind of experienced situations like that where it just takes just a simple word or a statement or a question, and I will spiral like that, and I can't pull myself out of it. But I've up until 2018, I had never been in a situation where it was a constant, like I woke up feeling that way. I went to bed feeling that way. Um, Unfortunately, I mean, it was situational for me. And once I removed myself from that situation, things went back to my normal level of anxiety. Um, but back in 2018, I was working at another job, and it was really toxic. It was the second time I had worked for the same person. Um, that's okay, sis. You're here. Sophie got mine finally. Um, I'd worked for her before. It didn't work out really well. But I had done a lot of therapy on my own, and I thought when the job opportunity came up that my hair is like all over the place, that I had gained enough strength in myself that I can handle working for her, and not let her get to me the way she had before. And boy, was I wrong. I very much underestimated the power of somebody who gets off on hurting other people, who enjoys making other people feel like they're losing their mind. The classic narcissistic personality. And I think she had some other stuff. I mean, I don't know. I could probably point to 10 different things in the DSM that would identify this person that I worked for, that she would meet criteria for. But I honestly feel like the only thing that really gave her pleasure in life was gaslighting other people and getting them spun up and then sitting back and watching that spin out. Um, Very deceptive. She would talk about you behind your back and then turn around and say she never said it, gaslighting both parties in it. So here this person heard it, the middle person, she would tell that person, well, that middle person would come, like for example, she would say something to that person and that person would come and talk to me about it. And then she would completely deny that she ever said it in the first place. So here I am thinking, what is going on? Am I being set up for something? While the other person's going, I absolutely was just set up for something. And the boss is sitting back going, this is fun to watch. So very sick individual. I realize that now. But toward the end, the second time I worked I worked for her for 2 years the first time and 2.5 years the second time. The last 6 months of working for her was an absolute hell for me. Somebody who I thought was my friend turned out to not be. In fact, was instigating me confiding information in her to then turn around and report back to my boss everything that was being said for then to be turned around and used against me. It took me a long time to realize that this person in the middle was actually playing both sides. And, I think that was because I was too close. I thought that was my friend. And it wasn't until long after. I probably really just had the realization maybe 6 or 8 months ago that, oh my God, she was the one doing that. But in the moment, I could, living in it, I couldn't fathom, I couldn't figure out how it was that my boss was getting this information when there was only one person I had told that worked for that company, but it didn't click in my head. But again, I think that was because I was just too close to the situation. But karma does their thing. And in the end, she ended up losing her job not too long after I walked out. Because I figured it was petty. I figured if I was going to be thrown under the bus and fired for, they were planning on firing me. I quit before they did. But if they were planning on firing me for reasons that were false or only half truths, I wasn't going to be the only one going under the bus. Because what was happening was things were being approved by my supervisor for me to do, but then my supervisor was denying that she approved them. So then I was going to be fired for doing things without permission. So yeah, it was a whole mess. But I've always been really dedicated to, yes, Sam, you know who I'm talking about. I talked a little bit about in one of my other streams before that I've always kind of had this strong dedication to my clients, often to the detriment of myself. And that was what was happening there. It had started in January of 08 or of 18. Things started getting really, really bad at work. But I was like, but my clients, if I leave, then who? If I leave, then who? If I leave, then what? What's going to happen with my clients? And so I stuck it out and I stuck it out and I kept sticking it out. And every day just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And no matter what I didn't help. If I left my door open, then I was accused of stuff. If I closed my door to give myself peace, then I was accused of being secretive and doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to be on the clock. But if I left my door open, I couldn't get any work done because there was constantly people standing in my doorway trying to see what I was doing. And I'm like, I'm fucking working. I'm like, so it literally was driving me crazy. But I didn't recognize the symptoms that I was experiencing even back at the beginning of that year. I kept getting this weird sensation on my head. And you guys will all recognize it when I describe it because we've all experienced it. I don't care if people like to say that, they've never had a fly in their life, but whatever. Bull. I call bull on that. But let alone have a fly land on you. But that was what it felt like. Was a fly that had landed and was walking just, you get that feeling, right? Just that soft little brush of your hair. And so I'm talking with clients and I kept like like trying to swat it away. And I'm like, okay, there is no fly in here. What is this? What is this? And I kept feeling it over and over and over and over. And I couldn't figure it out. And it was driving me crazy. And so I called my primary care doctor and I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I do have a cyst, family genetics in that same spot or in the same general area. So I thought, I don't know, maybe this is related to that. So I called my primary care doctor, scheduled an appointment, and went in and started talking to her. And she was like, well, that's not a typical symptom that goes along with a cyst. She goes, so tell me what's going on in your daily life. And as I was talking to her about it, I started realizing that it only happened at work. Once I was home, I didn't experience that unless there really was a fly landing on me. And over the course of the weekends, it wouldn't really happen until, midday Sunday. I would start to feel that again. And she looked at me and she goes, Laura, you're experiencing anxiety. And I was like, holy crap, it didn't even register. And so this was probably around, I don't know, maybe March. So I've been experiencing it for a couple months. And I just kind of waited and I waited. And again, it was, but if I, okay, let's learn some coping techniques, put the ones that I already know into practice. and talk myself off this ledge every day. Probably the most effective one that I have is the 5-4-3-2-1, utilizing your senses and, really taking your brain and your body out of the moment that's causing the anxiety. And so I kind of started practicing a lot of, deep breathing and the 5-4-3-2-1 and, different coping mechanisms that I know for anxiety. I also at that time started taking my cross stitch to work because that does really help calm my brain as well. And so, and again, that was one of those things that I had spoken with my supervisor about and told her that I was experiencing a lot of anxiety and that the cross stitch helped me. And it wasn't like and I got it cleared with her that in those moments where I was unable to utilize any other strategy to calm myself down, that I could do, 50, 100 stitches on my cross stitch, recenter myself, and then go back into the job. Had that cleared with her. Well, that was not relayed to my boss. So at the end, when things started getting, I was accused of cross stitching on the clock, and that was all I did 8 hours a day. Yeah, if I did that 8 hours a day, it would not have taken me 2 years to finish a project, but whatever. Yeah. See, and now I know, when I'm experiencing them, now I recognize them and I understand them. But again, I think in the moment, even now though, I think in the actual moment, I struggle sometimes to recognize it when it first starts happening. There has to be that physical. I don't recognize it when my heart starts beating a little faster. I don't recognize it when my, I'm starting to get clammy. It's usually when my face starts twitching or I'm getting that buzzy feeling in my head that I finally go, okay, Laura, do some practicing here because you're getting amped up. But like I said, things just kept getting worse and worse each day got worse and worse and worse. And it was just one thing after another, after another, after another. Suddenly, my grammar was being critiqued, my spelling was being critiqued, how I was engaging with clients was being critiqued. Things that had been normal procedure, like when our receptionist would go for lunch, I would cover the front desk so that way we didn't have to close during the lunch hour. So my lunch hour was an hour later than hers. And then all of a sudden, I did that one day and I got in trouble for not taking my lunch hour at the right time. It was like, what? I mean, it was just insanity, and it was driving me crazy. So at the end, toward the end of my employment, so this would have been, I quit in July of 2018. Song lyrics to songs you barely know. Yeah. That's interesting that you do math in your head. Huh. I've never heard of that technique, so that's kind of interesting. Interesting. And song lyrics, yeah. My time between, I'm going to tough this out for the benefit of my clients. Good afternoon, Tammy, or evening, wherever you're at. And screw this, I'm out of here, was 2 weeks. And within that 2 weeks, my anxiety levels had gotten so bad that I now was actually having physical panic attacks. I was crying every day on my way to work. I'd get there and I would sit in my car for like 15 minutes before I could even walk into the building because I was so shaky that I couldn't even walk. I was stumbling, you know. Twice in those 2 weeks, I actually had such high anxiety while I was driving to work that I actually blacked out and drove off the road. Um, Chronic headaches. I was having repeated blackouts. Like even just like sitting at my desk, all of a sudden my vision would just black out and I wouldn't be able to see anything. Um, and again, did not realize that was panic attacks. I was like, what? Oh my God, what the hell's going on with me now? Like, I need one more freaking thing to deal with right now. And so again, I called my doctor's office and told them what was going on, and they're like, all right, well, we'll send the doc a message and she'll get back with you. And I miss my doctor so much. I miss her. It was, she didn't have a problem handing out her private phone number. I could message her after hours and she would write me back. Yeah, yeah, that job was starting to really, really affect your anxiety pretty bad. And so she got the message, and because she was a busy practitioner, she didn't actually get back to me by the end of that business day, but she called me from her personal cell after hours, and she goes, you really need to consider whether this job is worth it. She goes, what you are experiencing is panic attacks. And if you continue to work under these conditions, it is not going to end well for you. Um, so it's time for you to make a decision as to, how important this job is to you in comparison to your health. Exactly. And that's part of that. I've had some feedback, especially from my own family, about me doing this on these channels, and do I really want to put this much of myself out here, for the world to see? And I'm like, absolutely, because I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this world feeling like I'm not heard. That people are looking at me like I'm not experiencing this, like I'm crazy. The doctors aren't believing me, and if we don't share what we know, then everybody else, other people that are experiencing that, stay blind in the situation, you know? And so that is why I'm wanting to do this, is because we all have experiences to share. And sometimes things are going to come across and it's going to be a light bulb moment for somebody, that it's like, oh my God, that's what that might be. Oh my gosh, thank you. I didn't even realize that. Like when I did my thing on ADHD, hearing that, I don't remember if it was typical, normal, usual, what exact word was used, but sleep time for an ADHD person is 2 o'clock. I'm like, really? Huh. So that's taking me down another rabbit hole into another deep dive. Because now I'm curious. I want to know, is that, what is that? Is that a valid statement made by her provider? And if so, what the hell is that? What causes that? Why is that a common denominator? Send hearts from 2010. I like that. Your computer doesn't do regular emojis? And thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. And I haven't even like really super delved into a lot of my personal stuff. I got side railed a little bit with some other things and got off schedule, uncovering a lot of that. Um, and the next couple weeks are probably going to be equally challenging, but I'll get there. Um, so faithful, fateful Friday in July of 2018 my supervisor, my friend, my supposed friend, came into my office in a huff. I mean, stomping, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? She closes my office door, which was also something very different. And she sits down and she tells me, and these words will always stick in my head because it was just kind of one of those, you have those moments where somebody who talks a lot, suddenly you find yourself speechless and you can't even respond because you're just in so much shock. And those words stick with me. She looked me straight in the face and she said, today was supposed to be your last day of work. But get this. But lucky for you, we have some new assessments coming in. So we're going to keep you for now. But rest assured, when it slows back down, you're the first one to go. Excuse me? I couldn't even, I was just in so much shock. And it still affects me when I think about it. Yeah, total blindside. I'm like, what the hell? What the actual fuck just happened? And so then it was this whole, she just, hi Barbie, numbered out all these things as to the reason why I was being fired. And I'm like, but these are all things that you approved. We've had these conversations. These are things that you and I have discussed and you as my supervisor approved. Why am I now being fired for those very things? Well, because that's what the boss wants. And for whatever reason, she was mad at me because when she got up to leave my office, she slams my office door behind me hard enough that my nameplate that, is like stuck with that, it's an office nameplate. It's stuck to the door. She slammed my door hard enough that my nameplate fell off my door. Why is she mad at me? Didn't click until later. Again, she was mad because I called her out on her shit, and she was probably afraid that I was going to bring that up to the boss. I'm getting to that, Tammy. So, and this was, again, it was early in the day. It was just after lunch when she came in. And it was following one of these, this lunch thing where our receptionist had left. She took her lunch break. I covered the lunch shift. And then when she came back, I sent out an email and said, hey, I'm going to one of the local restaurants. I'm going to grab my lunch. I'll be right back. Why didn't you take your lunch at noon like you were supposed to? When did the rules change? And nobody, and yeah, people definitely don't like being called on their shit. For sure. Yeah, and again, I would say, yeah, I think she was trying to silence me. I agree. And so after the initial shock wore off and I cried a lot, of course, I left my office door closed after that. I didn't even open it back up. I didn't have any more clients scheduled for that day. I was still supposed to be doing the mediation between my agency that I worked for and the clinic that we were associated with, I refused to leave my office. And I just sat in there and I cried and I cried and I cried and I yelled and I mad typed and I called my husband probably a dozen times and screamed and yelled and I couldn't even process what had just happened. And by the end of the day, I called my husband. I said, you know what? I'm done. I said, this is ridiculous. I'm done. And I said, it's gonna suck financially. We can't afford to only be a one income household. I was making $27 an hour at that job. So, I mean, it was going to be a big financial hit for me to quit. But I didn't see another option at that point, because how am I supposed to work for a company and have loyalty to a company that literally just came in and told me that when things slow down, I'm the first to go? There was no way. There was no way I was wrapping my brain around that at all. And so I came home Friday, and Saturday was the administration team had meetings every Saturday morning. And so I waited until their meeting was over. And my husband and I went into my work when the building was empty, cleared out my office, and I hung a sign on my door and said, "It's been fucking real." And I hooked my key on the hook, grabbed my nameplate, and left. And then I spent the rest of Saturday and all day Sunday writing my resignation letter, which turned out to be 5 pages long. And you bet your ass my supervisor went under the bus with me. Because I figure if I'm going to be pulled under a bus for things that I was told was okay for me to do, her ass was coming under with me. And I outlined all of these things that she had told me that Friday as to reasons why I was being fired. And I was like, and this was approved, this was approved, this was approved, this was approved, and so on and so forth. Well, needless to say, she actually was fired from her job 2 weeks after I walked from mine. So I do feel like I got a little bit of vindication there. But the panic attack, it was like, it was the hardest thing for me to do, but it was the best thing that I could have done, because that high anxiety, those super extreme panic attacks stopped almost immediately, even in the face of knowing I just quit a $27 an hour job. How are we going to financially do this? I had all the documentation to file for a hostile work environment with the state for unemployment, but because I opted to stay as a full-time student and finish out my degree that I was working on. I was working on a bachelor's degree at that time, and I had just under a year left in that program. Because I opted to focus on finishing my degree rather than immediately looking for another job, I was denied unemployment benefits, which I thought was BS, because there is a caveat in the state of Washington that does allow for exactly what I was doing, but they still denied it. A little bit of petty selfishness, and I get it. I can be petty. I can be. And I think, yeah, nailed the bitch. Yes, absolutely. And karma has really come to bite her in real life many times over in the last couple years, and so, and even when I was working with her, I mean, things just kept happening. And I'm like, girl, you got some bad juju on you. Who did you mess over? Because karma's biting your butt really hard. Who did you screw over? Little did I know the whole time it was me she was screwing over. But yeah, I mean, we still have friends in common, her and I do. So I've gotten some. Well, and it's funny because the friends we have in common are not friends with her anymore either. um, but we live in a relatively small community, so word gets around, and I've heard little bits and pieces of things that have happened in her life since 2018, and I'm like, yeah, karma, bitch. Um, Sorry, I was reading the comments and got distracted. EDD. I haven't had any caffeine yet today either. So yeah, no, I'm just kind of back to my normal, my normal level of anxiety. Normal. My last job was starting to create a lot of that for me again. And that had as much to do with me quitting my last job as my physical stuff did. Um, but I think I learned enough from the previous job to recognize that I was hurting myself more than I was helping my clients by trying to tough it out. Um, but even with that, I think I stayed in that job from a physical standpoint, as far as my medical stuff goes. I still think I stayed working much longer and much harder than I should have. Because at the in the end, um, my health got worse because I tried to push through rather than just acknowledging and addressing what was going on. And I will say, I saw this comment back here, Tammy. Um, he he is very supportive of things that I decide to do. Um, Part of that probably is because he knows that once my mind is made up, it doesn't matter what he says. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to be real about that. Um, but at the same time, I don't make big life decisions like that without consulting him. Even when I quit this last job, it was a hard one because, again, we had just got into a position where we were financially recovering from the 2018 debacle, and again, I was leaving a well-paid union job, um, but I was not well, and things were getting worse by the day. Um, on an 8-hour shift, I was probably spending 4 hours of that just laying on my office floor trying to get my back to stop hurting, and get the feelings back in my legs, and get my head to stop hurting. And some of that was the anxiety. I do know, especially like the headaches, but um, physically things were going south rapidly. Um, so I really had to push him because his response was, "I'm going to support whatever decision you make." And I'm like, "I know that, but I really want to know. But I need to know. It's not even a want. I need to know really what you're feeling right now about this, and I need more from you than I'm going to support your decision." So I really kind of had to push him this last go round because this time around it's going to be it's more than likely a permanent change. Rather than I'm just going to take temporary time off and go back to work, this is probably more along the lines of I'm not going to be going back to work. So more of a lifelong change versus a temporary. And I'm like, I'm not making this decision alone, and I'm not making it with just a I support your decision statement. Yeah, it's been rough, and that when was talking about with the herniated discs, recent tests, I found out that I have 3 herniated discs and 1 bulging disc in my neck. And so the doctor's like, well, no wonder you have headaches. You're holding, you only have 7 vertebrae in your neck and 4 of them are jacked up, and you're holding up an 8-pound object on that neck. No wonder you have headaches. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't realize my neck was jacked up until I woke up one day and I suddenly couldn't turn my head to the right anymore. And I'm like, something's wrong here. But yeah, between the herniated discs in the back and the herniated discs in the neck, I mean, it was just, I spend too much time sitting upright, in a full 90 degree, and everything just locks up and I hurt. So I was constantly having to stretch out on the floor. The inevitable anxiety that comes with independence. Yeah. The non-productive society member. Yeah, exactly. And you're in a sticky situation because you've got providers telling you that you aren't supposed to be working because you're medically unstable, but then none of them will sign disability paperwork saying, yeah, she shouldn't be working. She's medically unstable. It's like, and I'm just at the beginning of that whole disability mess. And again, the anxiety is interfering there. I'm like, I've got the account started, but I can't bring myself to start the application. And I don't know, I guess to some degree that's probably fear, maybe? Ambivalence? Acknowledging that moving forward my life is different. Oh, sorry. Acknowledging, I think doing the disability paperwork is the final step in me acknowledging that the career goals I had for myself my whole life are not going to be met. All the things that, I always dreamed of having and of doing are no longer a possibility. And I think that's what doing that disability paperwork represents for me. Oh, see, there goes that anxiety. Yeah, this is exactly, this is where my daughter's at, and her trying to deal with disability. Just normal daily activities can cause her to have a heart attack, but we still want you to go to work. We're not going to provide you a way to care for your family, but we're not going to let you work either. It's frustrating. I think that, just even, I mean, the whole purpose of me moving out here into the country and moving onto land was because I always wanted to own horses, and to be able to go, out on those sunset, those sunset rides and stuff. And because of my back, I can never get on a horse again because all it would take is being jarred the wrong way or being thrown. Oh my God, to be thrown from a horse would likely paralyze me. So yeah, I think that's what I think that's why I'm having such a hard time doing that disability paperwork, because it does literally mean an end of a dream for me in a lot of ways. Oh. But thank you guys for your support on that. I appreciate it. I just realized that Mina took off with my roll of toilet paper. I don't have any toilet paper in my craft room anymore. So I will be right back. All right. So yeah, having a sick 4-year-old here over the weekend. She pretty much traveled uh, with a roll of toilet paper with her everywhere she went. I didn't realize she took off with my roll out of the out of my craft room. Yeah, and I agree. I'm hoping that it does open another door. Um, but we'll see. Thank you, sis. And I agree. And I thank all of you for that support, for sure. But anxiety, like I said, anxiety, I mean it's an what's the word I'm looking for? Underestimated natural occurrence for people. Um like I said, we all experience some level of it. This and anxiety, the symptoms of anxiety are essentially an inability to cope. So with whatever situation is causing it, you are unable to use or you lack the skills necessary to cope with that situation. So your body manifests that inability with physical symptoms. Um, yeah, and I know, being in Washington, I mean, we are one of the hardest states in the 50 to actually get disability in. Um, I have some I have some speculations on why that might be. Um, but the whole West Coast, Washington, Oregon, and California, we are the toughest states um, to get disability approved. The average in Washington is 5 years, unless you have like the rare exception. Does it go through really quick? It's pretty standard for 3 appeals at minimum before they'll even really consider your application. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just need to buck up and do it, because the more time I waste, the longer it's going to take. But, and I've got lots of doctor's appointments coming up that I can all, just keep supplementing and supplementing and supplementing with, you know, more documentation as I go, rather than sitting and waiting for all of these appointments to happen. And then here's all my medical records. Be like, let's just get it started, and then just, you know, add additional supplements as it goes along. Because I still have to get a new MRI done on my back, so they can figure out why my legs are feeling so heavy and why I'm having difficulty walking. We still have to get some more testing done on my neck. I have my appointment tomorrow to figure out the nerve issues in my arm and why I keep losing feeling in my arm. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of tests coming up in my future. And I've got somebody on Instagram too that I connected with through, I don't even remember whose channel it was, but she worked for like 10 years as a disability advocate and processing applications and stuff. So she's gonna help me get the wording. She goes, she goes, before you submit anything, let me review them, and I'll tell you where you need to change wording to make it more impactful, I guess is the way to put that. Yeah, I agree. It is, and the way the doctor fills them out. Yeah, and I don't feel like I have. I mean, my biggest advocate is actually my orthopedic surgeon. You know, the one that's dealing with all the herniated discs. Because my primary doctor underestimates, underdiagnoses. I don't know the right word to use there. Everything, like, you know, when I first started having difficulty, this is a prime example. When I first started having difficulty with my legs and walking, I scheduled an appointment with my primary care, and I'm like, my back really hurts. It hurts a lot. And my legs are swelling up every day. They feel like they weigh like 500 pounds each. And I can't, by the end of every day, if I can even lift my legs up to walk, I'm lucky. I consider myself lucky. And I walked out of the doctor's office with a referral for a colonoscopy because I'm 50. Explain that to me. Where is the logic in that? And why did my insurance even pay for that? I went in for one thing and walked out with something completely different. And what I went in there for was not even addressed. It was addressed in him saying, maybe you should call your orthopedic surgeon and have that looked at. Except I need a new referral to my orthopedic surgeon for a new condition. That's why I'm here. I'm like, so I've been on this quest. I'm trying to find a new PCP. And unfortunately, I know that's going to interfere. It's going to cause some issues, most likely on the disability, because I'll be with I won't be with an established, my established primary care doctor at that point. But, I went in complaining about the numbness in my hand. But at the beginning of the year, he just kept saying it's carpal tunnel, it's carpal tunnel. And I'm like, but it starts in my elbow. How is that carpal tunnel syndrome? It starts in my elbow. I went in complaining about, get the headaches dealt with. It's sleep apnea. Let's get you a CPAP. I still don't have a CPAP. It's been 8 months. I still don't have one. But, the headaches are nothing, but it's just because you're, I went about the swelling in the legs. Well, it's because you have sleep apnea and you're not oxygenating well. Just completely disregarding all of these things that I've brought to him. So I have zero confidence that he would be effective at all in filling out paperwork for disability. Yes, exactly why we don't like doctors. Yeah, I go in tomorrow. We did the nerve conduction test last week, which was really, that was a bizarre test if you've never had one done. The nerve conduction part of it wasn't so bad because I mean I use a TENS unit on my back all the time, so I'm used to that, that pulsing. But that electrode one, that was weird. And when he was sticking, and they tested all the way from my the tips of my fingers all the way up into my neck with that electrode one. And when he was sticking the pin in the needle or whatever it is, I couldn't feel it all in my hand. I couldn't feel it going into my elbow anywhere up into my upper arm. I didn't feel it going into my neck at all. Didn't feel it when it did the pulse. But man, when he stuck them into my forearm, I cried. I'm like, oh my God, I felt that one. And I felt it for hours after. I was like, I'd be sitting there and all of a sudden I'd get this really hot burning sensation in my forearm. And I'm like, ow, what the hell? But I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel them above my elbow, and I couldn't feel them, from mid forearm down into my hand. I'm like, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see tomorrow. But yeah, he did say the guy. He goes, well, they'll let you know the rest of the diagnosis. He goes, but I can tell you that you have severe carpal tunnel in your right hand. He goes, there's like almost no reaction whatsoever. So yeah, we'll find out tomorrow what the full diagnosis is and what the my next course of action is going to be there. Fortunately, I'm left-handed. For most things in life, I do obviously. I mean, I mouse with the right. I cross stitch right-handed. But most other things I can do left-handed if for whatever reason I don't, have to get. So, Sam, did you have a nerve conduction test done too? As when he did the MRI on my neck, he said that because my 3 herniated discs are actually herniated in the front versus in the back. So they're not pinching off nerves as far as the MRI can tell. Okay, because I was like, it's like a TENS on crack. It's like cattle prods. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it. It's hot pokers going into your flesh. Um, lost my train of thought again. But yeah, when he did that, when he looked at the MRI results, he said that he couldn't see any nerve impingement in my shoulder, going down into my arm, but that was why he ordered the nerve conduction test because he didn't feel comfortable recommending a course of action without knowing exactly what was causing the numbness in my arm. But I've come to realize that I'm numb in a lot of strange places. Like right here on my face is numb. There's a part on my lip, like right, and it's mostly right side. Right here on the top of my lip is numb. Um, the neck and the shoulder, it's just weird. So something's pinched somewhere. Just a matter of figuring out where. Constantly like, because my lip is numb. I was gonna say when you said that, I was like, wait a minute, what? I don't remember you ever having that done. But anyway, so that is my experience with anxiety and panic attacks. I'm anticipating. Oh, he had the nerve conduction at his last appointment. I guess I missed that. Anticipating starting to experience, experiencing anxiety at a higher level and probably more often as these appointments start becoming rapid fire, as well as, like I said, getting through, getting that application done, and as Tammy said, ripping the Band-Aid off. Yeah, just hit me up on IG for sure. And I'm so, like I said, I'm so looking forward to you getting up and running again. So tomorrow is Tenacious Tuesday, so I'll be working on diamond painting again. Which means I have to move my stand and my light and stuff and get my space cleared out for that, because, like, if you've seen the videos, my easel is massive, and it does take up a lot of space. But so hopefully you guys can join me tomorrow, and we'll just kind of do some lighthearted conversation and diamond painting. And for anybody that diamond paints themselves, feel free to get yourself set up and come on panel with me, and we can just kind of hang out together. Yeah. Revamp. As long as you're not rebranding, because I think your brand is fine. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to jump off here. It's 4:15. I've got to go figure out what I'm going to make for dinner. Get my caffeine injection going. I didn't get to 4:30 after last night's stream. It still took me another hour to fall asleep last night. And then I had a really hard time just in general, just like waking up this morning. It's like I feel like I've been mummified most of the day. But yeah, I'm like, I gotta jump online, get this done, get the conversation done. I was initially gonna just do a pre-record, and to be honest, I don't know how to do that on my laptop, and I didn't feel like recording on my phone and transferring it over. So I'm like, screw it, I'll just go live. But hopefully I see some of you guys in tomorrow. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day or your evening. I guess it's now early evening for just about everybody. Be safe and do something fun and productive. Talk to you guys later. Bye.